Hey everyone, Mike Miller with the Herald Times, joined by IU basketball columnist Jeremy Price. We're both exhausted. I think everyone in this arena is exhausted. 3 overtimes. Indiana did get the win, a 110-102 win over Penn State. Triple overtime against Penn State. What a way to kick off.
Triple overtime, and it felt like 6.
Yeah, because, well, the game started at 6:30. It ended about 9:30. And, again, I think everyone in this arena was exhausted for one reason or another. IU certainly exhausted walking off the court. I mean, what, did Robert Johnson play 50 minutes tonight?
It was crazy.
Just one of those nights. Yeah, this is a game that Tom Crean says he will never forget. He actually pointed back to a triple overtime loss to Louisville back in his second season at Marquette. It's a game that just kind of sticks with him.
Well, I mean, we called this a must-win game, and it was
it was.
It
certainly was.
That sort of ratcheted up as this game went on and on and on, because the longer this game went, the more it felt like if you lost it, it was just going to be so deflating.
Yeah, and there were a couple times Indiana could have lost it. A few times, at least one time it appeared that they might have just lost it at the end of the first overtime.
Pat Chambers thinks so.
The whole Penn State bench was actually right around the foul line over there in front of their bench, and they were all waving it off. And frankly, I thought the way they kind of came out in that second overtime period, I thought that they had already thought the game was over, and were maybe just a little bit emotionally spent those first 2 or 3 minutes of that second period, because they all thought that was no good, that Josh Newkirk layup that just beat the buzzer at the first overtime period. I forget every other play that ever happened tonight. So, let's rewind though. Indiana's fourth game without OG Anunoby, second without James Blackman. They were very fortunate for their sake, able to lean on their core guys right now, Thomas Bryant, Robert Johnson, and Josh Newkirk stepped up very admirably in this game. First, Bryant, they all had career highs in scoring, which, as Robert Johnson said after, we played long enough, probably should have.
Yeah.
31 points for Bryant, 27 each for Johnson and Newkirk. It gave Indiana a little bit of everything at times, especially Bryant coming out playing, asserting himself early, asserting himself in that second overtime period, had 8 of his points in that extra frame. The ability for those guys to kind of be the rock, as we talked about after the last game here, after that Michigan State game, was huge. And, I really, for Indiana, the whole key is getting that moving forward, especially with some of these road trips coming up.
Yeah, this was a game where you couldn't have done it without any one guy. They needed everything that they got from everybody tonight. And obviously Bryant and Johnson stepping up in the way they did. And for Thomas Bryant, really that's 2 games in a row now where he's stepped up and sort of been the guy that we've been looking for all season long, just more decisive, more aggressive, whatever. He doesn't seem to think a whole lot's changed, but I do. So
yeah, clearly.
There's just I don't know. I don't know if he feels more comfortable or if he feels like there's nothing to lose now. I don't know. Whatever that hesitancy was, that sort of that he had going on before, I mean, that seems gone now.
Maybe he's like us writers on Deadline, where you're just sort of like, all right, I just have to do it. I just have to get it done and do it. I mean, going back to what Tom Crean said the other day, it was Friday night when they informed the team that James Blackman was going to be out for a little bit. He said that he saw it right away in that Friday night practice, Thomas Bryant going hard, playing aggressive, looking like the Thomas Bryant we saw in March of last year, frankly. So maybe there was a switch that flipped when he heard that news. Maybe he recognized at that point, all right, this is my time to really step into who I am, who I can be, who I should have been at different points throughout the year, and that's really what we've seen over the last 2 games.
And Robert Johnson was Robert Johnson, really. I mean, obviously he had a higher scoring night than is typical, but, I mean, he's become very reliable throughout this season. He's just not usually the guy you want to have to be the go-to guy necessarily. But for me, the biggest thing was Newkirk stepping up tonight. Yeah. I mean, that was that third option that's been missing, especially without James Blackman. And he just, it wasn't a perfect night by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, and I wrote this in my column, probably when he picked up that second foul less than 5 minutes into the game, you were probably thinking, good. It's about time he go to the bench, because he already had 2 turnovers, had missed a 3, was really struggling coming into this game, was only 7 of 24 in the last 3 games from the field, 0 of 7 from 3, and all of a sudden the switch flipped. He came back in the game midway through the first half, got a couple buckets in transition, and next thing you know, he couldn't miss, and just played with a different confidence, a different level of energy. Just was a different guy. Like I said, not a perfect game, but he was the guy that Indiana needed to step up and give them a chance in this one.
Yeah, I thought he and Devante Green too. Really midway through that first half, when it seemed like Indiana was poised to, I wouldn't say run away with it, but at least create the separation that they needed to kind of carry them through. Those two guys really gave them the spark that they needed. Thomas Bryant hit a 3 with about 12, 13 minutes left in the half. Gave him, I think, a 12-point lead. The lead got as big as 13 points, and you could almost sense that they were almost having fun again. They were almost feeling confident in themselves and their abilities to kind of play as a team, play as a unit, and get things to fit, because the last 2 games, things have not fit, as they've tried to move on without guys as key as Anunoby and Blackman.
And in the second half, things didn't exactly fit that great. I mean, they only scored 26 points in the second half today. I still don't think this team really fits, as currently constructed, without those guys. I mean, they don't. I just don't think they do through long stretches. At least they haven't shown it yet. But at least in that first half, they got the footing that they needed, and it was separation that didn't. It almost felt like this game 2 weeks ago in State College, where they had that. It was a 14-point lead in State College. There's 13 here. It was almost right around that same time in the second half when you're starting to think, oh, my God, they're coughing it up again. For basically the last 10, 11, 12 minutes of that second half, it was basket for basket all the way down to the end. Devante Davis hit a couple free throws to bail Indiana out at the end of regulation and get them into the overtime period. But it was, again, that was another instance of guys stepping forward, everyone kind of doing a little bit of something to kind of get this win out. Devante Green, right in the start of the third overtime, right after Newkirk had hit a 3, gave him a 3-point lead. I didn't even see it. Tom Crean didn't see it. Crean steals the inbounds quickly out, 5-point lead. Eventually got that up to 10 points in that third period, overtime period. And again, those little moments and kind of bouncing back after. I think he had missed those free throws. Was it in the second? What was that? That was first overtime?
Maybe it was the first overtime, yeah. They all blurred
I don't
together.
think it was regulation. I think it was first overtime.
I think it was the first overtime, but yeah.
Or something.
It was just third.
Yeah, who knows?
Third half.
Anyway, yeah, Devante struggled from the field, but I thought he was much better, much more active tonight. He didn't shoot a high percentage, but he came up with some big steals when he needed it. Wound up with 10 rebounds, which is fantastic, including a nice tip-in putback that was in the first half, I believe.
And that's kind of Blackman's production too. Like, that's what he does as a guy on the.
Yeah, and Devante Davis, not a lot of minutes tonight, but 9 points, 8 rebounds in the 22 minutes that he played. Juwan Morgan, we hardly knew you. Fouled out in 21 minutes tonight. He's probably going to be the freshest guy on the team come Sunday at Wisconsin.
Well, couple that with still getting back from the injury, he's kind of in a weird place. You kind of feel for him too, just kind of finding his way and not being healthy, and certainly not really impacting tonight for a number of reasons. But
well, I mean, he's likely to be the guy on Nigel Hayes come Sunday, so might as well get your rest, Juwan.
Yeah, everyone gets their rest. It sounds like they're going to have a day off tomorrow. Probably.
I think they're going to go real hard for a couple of days, really.
Probably shouldn't. It's February now. We're getting down to crunch time. Only 3 more games here, I think. And, 8 more games total in the regular season. Again, some very serious questions remain about this team and where they can go, their ceiling.
I don't think anybody walks out of here thinking, oh, great, we've turned the corner.
Beat Penn State.
Everything's hunky-dory now. I mean, there are a lot of questions. Well, what you hope is the best case scenario is that you take what you learned with the guys that stepped up and made plays for you in a game like this. You get James Blackman Jr. back, and then those guys are able to sort of raise their level of play and help sort of make up for the absence of OG and those things that are going on. And maybe things fall back into place a little bit better and you steal just enough wins to kind of hang in there where you keep yourself on the bubble going to the Big Ten tournament and then see what happens from there. Because, and especially depending on how long Blackman's out, if he's out for a sustained amount of time, a lot of questions about where, frankly, any more wins are going to come from.
Yeah, I mean, you question going up to Madison with this bunch right now not having that consistent scoring punch. Although Bryant has played his way into that role by default, you do kind of wonder in that house of horrors, the Kohl Center, just how they do respond. Coming off a game like this, constructed the way they are, big game. That would be the kind of win. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but we'll talk preview about this Friday. We could talk for a little bit about Wisconsin, perhaps, but this happened. A 3 overtime game, second 3 overtime game, triple overtime game in program history. The last was 30 years ago this month, actually.
Yes.
February 1987 at Wisconsin.
At Wisconsin.
Oh, man, stars are aligned.
How about them Marbles?
Not really. I don't know what that
How about them 23 turnovers by Indiana tonight?
And the 29 points off those turnovers.
Yeah,
points
that
off
was
turnovers, 3
brutal.
pointers for Penn State really allowed them to hang
brutal.
around for a bit. And again, it's the same flaws we've seen for this Indiana team. They're not going anywhere. I mean, they're going to turn the ball over a ton. They're going to play. Some of the points around the basket for Penn State tonight, the easy runs to the rim were just ridiculous. That's Indiana basketball right now. That's Indiana.
We could go on for a while, but Indiana went to a zone defense a lot there in the second half, and frankly, Penn State was kind to them in that they opted to just jack some shots from three, because when they were patient and got the ball on the baseline or in the middle of the zone, it was over. I mean, they got whatever they wanted, but fortunately they weren't patient enough to do that very often, so they helped out quite a bit.
Yeah, and this has also turned into the weirdest rivalry in the Big Ten. These two teams, like, for whatever reason, just jaw at each other every time they see each other. We saw it at Penn State when an assistant coach took issue with Indiana running toward the Penn State locker room at halftime. Turned out the assistant wasn't aware that OG Anunoby was laying in agony on the baseline, and the whole team kind of was running over to see what was going on. They kind of smoothed that over, but again tonight, players were exchanging words. It looked at one point, I wasn't sure if Tom Crean was yelling down at the Penn State bench, or maybe he was vice versa. I don't know, but there is just a weird tension when these two teams meet for some reason. Penn State, though, they're just kind of like a punchy group. They got a bit of an attitude.
Yeah, they've got that underdog
which I kind of like. That's what you got to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to prove they belong in the Big Ten and against a team like Indiana. I mean, they've definitely got that chip on their shoulder thing going on. But I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like Penn State and Indiana don't really. I mean, I don't know. I guess if that's a rivalry, maybe that's a statement of the wrong sort.
Well, yeah, and I use the word rivalry very loosely, but I guarantee now that Indiana and Penn State will be matched up in the first round of the Big Ten tournament.
Ooh, well, that sounds like fun.
No, probably not going to happen. Anyway, we've gone long on this one, just like the game itself. So fittingly, after 12 minutes of us talking at each other, we're going to wrap this up and go home.
Triple OT Scoop Talk.
Goodness gracious. All right, we'll talk Friday. We'll preview Wisconsin. See you then.